This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock. We are glad to have you with us, and we want to thank our friends at KFSM in Northwest Arkansas. The 5 News crew has let us crash their studios today for our edition of Talk Business and Politics. My first guest is Senator Bart Hester of Cave Springs, Republican. He's the majority whip in the Arkansas State Senate,
Majority
aren't you?
Leader.
Majority Leader.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you get those things going. That's good. Welcome to the program. Good to have you with us.
Very good to be here.
Welcome back into session.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times.
We had a little breakthrough at the Capitol this past week. The governor revised his tax plan to basically, I think it brings it down the number substantially, but it still makes that leap to 5.9% over a shorter period of time. Why is this, first of all, do you support this revision? Does it go far enough?
Well, you know, I can always argue it doesn't go far enough, but I've learned the longer I've been around, when you can get a win, you better take it. And so I'm very, very happy with this plan. I'm happy that you know, Senator Hendren, the governor, Representative Jean have worked so hard in bringing us together on something we can all agree on.
So explain this to me, because if and there has been lower income tax cuts over the last couple of sessions. I think people forget that sometimes.
That's right.
It gets lost in the translation there. But on this top tax rate right here, the numbers that were rolled out, if you make $50,000 a year, it's a whopping $12 of tax savings over the course of a year. If you make $80,000 a year, I think it's $253. We have some sufficient needs in this state for, say, roads, for instance.
That's right.
Should we be cutting taxes when we've got such a big deficit to build more roads?
Well, I think, number one, we're never going to satisfy the road lobby, right? We have a need. We're going to try to correct that later in this session, or at least help with that. But I think even a bigger concern is getting our tax rate in line with the states around us in this region, so when there's industry looking to come to this area, that Arkansas doesn't immediately get written off because of our upper income tax rate.
That's the biggest argument, really, for this tax cut. It's not I have not heard a lot of arguments of we need to put more money in people that are wealthier to trickle down. It has been more of a state's competitiveness argument.
It's absolutely competitive. You know, for two purposes. You know, we took care of the lower income, which was Governor Hutch says his priority. He wasn't going to move on until we did that. We did that. We did the middle class. Now we're just finishing our overall tax plan, or hopefully round one of it. And then secondly, you know, bringing jobs to the area helps people of all economic backgrounds. And so that's why getting to 5.9 is critical. We think we're going to get there in less than 2 years before we come into the next session. And so we're excited about it.
So let's talk roads. You mentioned roads earlier there. Where is the discussion right now? I know it's everywhere and there's no real general consensus. The tax cut stuff had to get done first before there could be conversation about highways, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong. But now that we're there, what do you think's moving?
Well, I think, as I've been saying, I think there's a general consensus that we're going to send something to the voters. Now, what that is, we don't know yet. I do believe it's going to have to come with some sort of teeth for the legislature, right?
What does that mean, teeth for the legislature?
Well, you know, the Highway Commission and Department runs completely independent of us, and part of that's constitutional and part of it is not. But look, if we're going to refer out to continue to give them more spending, then we need to have a little bit of idea of what's happening and be able to represent our constituents that may or may not be treated fairly by the Highway Department.
So you said that you're never going to satisfy the road lobby. I'm not going to disagree with you on that, because there's, I mean, literally you could probably find 17 to 18, $20 billion worth of highway needs in the state if you wanted to. But the numbers that have been floated out there have been somewhere in the $200 million to $400 million a year range is what needs to be raised for this. A half-cent sales tax isn't going to get it. Are there going to have to be other taxes raised to raise that money?
Well, I think there's always avenues to go rather than raising taxes.
Such as what?
Well, the governor's not for it, but you know, a revenue shift from certain things that go on the roads as far as tires, I can be on board for that. We have electric cars currently, and more of them are coming on track that aren't paying their share of the road use. I highly support user fees. You know, I would much rather see lower.
How would that work, a user fee?
Well, you know, I just on a broad schedule. You know, I'd rather somebody pay less income tax and pay more when they spend money, right? In this way, maybe other states have added a fee when they register a car that's an electric car.
I got you.
And maybe that's something we need to go down. But certainly, if somebody's going to use the road, it's hard to argue that they shouldn't pay their share.
Is there anything that's off limits for you in terms of a tax increase for roads?
Well, look, just an out-and-out tax increase, there's no way I'm going to vote for it. And I am personally not going to vote to send a tax increase to the people to vote on. I do believe
Not even the half-cent sales tax increase?
not even the half-cent sales. I mean, I made a commitment to the voters when they elected me in District 1 that I would not do that, and I'm not going to do it. I do believe there's a majority of Republicans and certainly a majority of the Democrats that are going to be supportive of sending an initiated act out.
Yeah. Do you think that the legislature ought to just maybe take care of it in-house, or do you think it has to be a vote of the people?
I think it has to be. If it's going to be a tax increase, it's going to have to be a vote of the people. And again, you know, if you want to call the people of Arkansas and do a poll, I think you're going to say that most of them will say, "I'm willing to pay a penny or two more at the pump to get better roads in my district."
Well, I may just poll that, Bart.
Yeah, I think it's a good question.
You've also got a bill working, and there has been some conversation this week to replace 2 statues at the U.S. Capitol. Some folks might not know the history of all this, but a gentleman named U.M. Rose and another gentleman named James Clark are presently on display in the state capitol. Every state has 2 people from its statehood there. These have been around for about 100 years. There's a bill to replace them with Johnny Cash. There's a bill to replace them with Daisy Bates. We've talked about Sam Walton in your backyard, and then you are interested in a Navy SEAL named Adam Brown, who is quite famous. What's going to happen this next week?
Well, this next week on Wednesday, we're going to come into committee as the whole. You know, usually we break out into smaller committees, but a committee of the whole, that way all 35 senators can talk about who their choice will be. And certainly I think it's appropriate just to talk about all the great people that have came from Arkansas or lived here at a certain point and why they're deserving of such a recommendation. And what you don't want to get away from is somebody was the loser in that, because even if we talk about you, they were certainly worthwhile. But really we're going to get down to 2 people. I'm pushing for Adam Brown and Daisy Bates because both of them stood for something much bigger than themselves. And certainly Adam Brown gave his life for our country. And, you know, if you've read his book, such a heroic thing, overcame so many obstacles, I think make us very proud that he represents us.
It's not a name that's on everybody's tongue, though. I mean, everybody has heard of Daisy Bates, everybody has heard of Sam Walton, everybody has heard of Johnny Cash, but Adam Brown's name's not necessarily up there, but it will be incumbent upon you to bring it up into the forefront there.
It will, and I will tell you, there are a lot of names that people maybe say, now why not them? And I would say that we've done a lot of work with some of the families before we recommend maybe one of the members of their family to see if they were interested in that being an honor for their family or not. And if they declined it, then we probably won't go any further.
All right. Last question for you. Senator Bob Ballinger's pushing for some exemptions on the minimum wage act that was just passed by the state, by the voters of the state. Does not seem to be much appetite for changing that. Do you think that anything will get exempted?
I think it's something that we might talk about more coming up. There's not a lot of appetite in the Republican caucus currently for that. But you know what, Bob's kind of fearless sometimes, and you know that was a 64% winner with the people. But Bob's listening to constituents, particularly nonprofits in his area, saying, "Look, we're going to have to lay people off. It may shut down our nonprofit." Things that are very important to communities. And so Bob just wanted to start the conversation with, look, there's already exemptions to this law with wait staff, for instance, at a restaurant. Should there be more? And I don't think he considered it as hostile as a lot of people have saw that, but I think it's probably a conversation that we'll have, certainly not in the current form.
All right. He's Senator Bart Hester. He is the Senate Majority Leader, correct?
Yes, sir.
I got my title right on that one. Thank you so much for being here, Bart.
Thanks for having me.
Representative Nicole Clowney of Fayetteville will be with us right after this break.